begin.
You don't do that!
To be or not to be.
It's just genius! Whoa.
Greetings, everyone. Today's review is what was it again, Shannon?
Nekomimimoto!
Translate, Ross.
Moonphase.
Moonphase was produced by a certain animation company known as Studio Shaft, the same one as the most pretentious thing I've ever laid eyes on. Monogatari series and Mahoromatic.
Which was co-produced with Gainax, I believe. Ross, you reviewed that one, didn't you? We're off to a jolly good start.
When I first saw Moonphase, I expected the worst. Let's just say, I was half wrong. The story is about a relationship between photographer Kohei Morioka and Hazuki, a teenager who descends from royal vampire lineage. At the beginning, Kohei travels to the castle in what I presume is Germany to take photographs of paranormal phenomena for his friend Hitomi, who is an editor of an occult magazine. At the castle, Kohei meets Hazuki, who feeds on Kohei's blood and claims him as his unwilling servant.
Say, this premise sounds awfully familiar.
A foreigner travels to a castle in Eastern Europe only to fall prey to the allure of a nightly creature. Where have I heard that before?
Oh yes, definitely an interesting spin on a well-known classic. Instead of, let's say, Gary Oldman wearing a spooky makeup, we've got a bratty, blood-sucking princess that loves to wear cat ears for no discernible reasons. Now my interest is at its highest peak.
At least it's not dancing the vampire bun.
Don't you mean dancing the lolly buns? Sorry.
Moving on. The anime built itself with a steady plot which kept me interested at first. Hazuki is probably the brattiest main lead I've ever seen, but that doesn't mean she isn't likable. Actually, most of the characters are likable in the show. Even Arte, who is usually quiet and evil, but likable at a point. The opening, Nekomimimoto, annoyed the living feces out of me at first, but you'll get into it sooner or later. It's inevitable. You can't escape. You will obey!
Meh, I've seen better outbursts of madness.
Everyone's a critic.
Well, I am one. Allow me to demonstrate.
There is a significant problem with this digestus. Surprisingly enough, it's not to be found in its dubious premise, which was certainly chosen in order to make a buck out of the current mass media's infatuation with vampire/supernatural love stories. Not even the fact that it's supposed to depict a romantic relationship between a college student in his 20s and a tween-age vampire loli with a feline fetish is, all in itself, a sufficient reason to dismiss this opus as dreadfully avoidable. Its real issues start and finish with its noticeable lack of consistency in between episodes, a flaw that I seem to fumble upon rather often whenever I lay my eyes on either a Shaft or a Gainax production or both. The despicable opening sequence sets a mood for a light-hearted comedy that seemed to almost ignore the presence of actual vampires in the show, but it's often counteracted by more dramatic scenes and a significantly darker tone both at the beginning and as the story progresses. The same problem occurs amidst episodes, sporadically interchanging with a stage play style of comedy, an overused slapstick number involving kitchen utensils falling on people's heads, and a main character about to die. And again, there's this bloody opening theme.
Hey Shannon, guess what?
What?
It's time for Nekomimimoto!
exaggerating if I said more people know this show because of the song than any other reason.
That's another problem of the show. Its increasingly distracting intercourse between different moods ultimately damages its solidity as an overarching narrative, thus ending up being rather forgettable. For the most part, that is. What you will be unable to forget are its over-the-top feats of idiocy.
This show is heavily flawed. It wants to have something for everyone. It's fairly ambitious to be sure, but in the end it spreads itself too thin to come together as a whole. The action is infrequent, the characters seem to get development in spurts, and are fairly tropey in execution overall. The narrative can both drag at points and feel rushed at others.
Oh, then there's the teleporting castle.
The teleporting what now?
This.
What is that?
It's a castle.
That's Schwarzkell, the place where Hazuki was imprisoned when Kohei rescued her.
How to get here?
The castle seeks Mistress Luna just as she seeks the castle. Her decision to return brought it from Germany to here.
Is that Castle Duckula?
In the heart of Transylvania, in the Vampire Hall of Fame, yeah, there's not a vampire than the other. He won't fight beast the man, cause he's a vegetarian again, and things never run plan.
Don't kill.
If you're looking for some fun, you can always count upon the one they call
Duckula.
Count Duckula!
Seriously? The villains had Count Duckula on their side? What?
Oh yes, we haven't spoken about the villains yet. Now have we? There's this guy, this girl, this other guy, and they all work for Hazuki's daddy who wants to keep her locked up in Castle Duckula for some non-specific reason.
Yay for coherency!
Let's just wrap this up.
Despite its many issues, I enjoyed the show. Except for the ending. I have experienced some weird-ass endings before, but this is just... wow. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I felt like the ending was parodying the whole anime. It just annoyed me too much, but not much to make me dislike the whole show in general.
Moonphase ends up being a flawed but enjoyable anime experience. It has a level of ambition uncommon in anime these days, and that makes me respect it, flaws and all. On the positive side, the artistic direction is inspired. Its setup as a stage play makes good use of the gimmick. Beyond that, there are some great moody scenes at play with great use of shadows and camera angles to really set the tone at the darker scenes. It reminds me of Black Cat, and that's a very good thing. The sound also does its job well, highlighting the surreal happenings and the down-to-earth comical sections. Beyond that, the performances on both the original Japanese cast and Funimation's dub are both very good. There are occasional pointless fanservice shots. The main romance is underdeveloped, between a college student and a lowly vampire no less. The magical abilities aren't explained, our main character is nearly useless to 90% of the show, and it leaves off on an anticlimactic final battle and a minor cliffhanger. It clearly is holding out for a second season it never got.
Yeah, Sonoa Toshimono can get 3 seasons and a movie, but the ambitious show that desperately needs a second season can't get one. Sometimes, I fucking hate Japan.
Just let it go, Ross.
Never!
Before I go, I feel I need to offer defense for the oft-loathed final episode of this anime. Many complain about how it makes no sense or it could have been used to solve the cliffhanger the show kinda leaves off on. While these may be valid complaints, let me tell you my take on it. Episode 25 is the true end to the show, where the stage show that we've been seeing comes to an end. Episode 26 is meant to be an encore performance, with a small self-contained story using the same actors and sets that doesn't relate to the main play in any way. While I'm not terribly versed in theater enough to know whether this actually happens in real stage plays, I can safely say that could happen, and that's enough for me. As far as not ending the series, I imagine if they had tried to do it in only a half an hour additional runtime, it would have been incredibly rushed. If they had used the entire runtime of episodes more efficiently, then they could have pulled it off. But from where they ended it, or even the previous episode before it, no way.
I enjoyed Moonphase, but that may be more for the sea of fan service anime I've been drowning in lately. Still, I recommend taking a look at it at least.
Moonphase is a thoroughly forgettable visual experience. It has the ideas and the means to pull off a potentially delightful drama, but it fails flat in the overall execution with its inability to keep all the various elements in balance. The end result is a head-scratching mess with no adequate consistency and a bafflingly disappointing resolution. The only things that will remain impressed in your mind are the more ludicrous ones, like Count Duckula and that horrible, horrible theme.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to listen to some real non-annoying music.
In the heart of Transylvania, in the Vampire Hall of Fame, yeah.